Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we are here today to talk the Judging Eye, chapters 5 through 9, doing 4 chapters at a time. It's my first time reading the Aspect Emperor series, and I am here today with Katerina and Daniel. Daniel, will you kick us off with an introduction?
I'm Daniel, and I am having a good time reading this series with Steve, who has never read it, and Katerina, who we're going to catch up to in the next month or two. And I have read far more than them, but not as far as I should.
And I'm Katerina. As Daniel said, I've read The Judging Eye once before. Um, and I am dreading the moment where I'm in the same position as Steve, completely oblivious to everything that's happening or going to happen. But I think The Judging Eye I would say it's one of my favorite books in the series. It is very slow. Like it moves at a slow pace, but it keeps moving. Like there's always something happening, something pushing it forward, which is something I appreciate about the book.
Hmm. I'm glad you said that because I felt like I think the first 4 chapters, they weren't like action packed or anything, but they seemed like they flowed really well. These last 4 were kind of slower than normal than I was accustomed to with the series. What did you guys think?
We've been kind of at a standstill the last 4 chapters, it seems like, where not a lot of action has taken place. The first 4 chapters, there was a battle, I guess. These chapters, some people died, but
I,
it
I
was
didn't I didn't feel that way. I mean, I'm not saying this is like these 4 chapters were like action packed or anything. I guess I said I like it is a slow book. I think it's probably one of the slowest books that we read so far. But I mean, certainly a Kamian walked a lot in the 2 chapters we had with him, and we got some insight into the little devil Kemomas, and we I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe you could say nothing happened with Sorwheel, but there were some revelation with Yatwer and the slave and the role that he's going to play, or that that Callus wants him to play in the Great Ordeal, which I think are maybe not the most exciting things to happen to a character, but I think they are still very important for what's going to happen later, if anything.
we got introduced to a lot in these 4 chapters for sure. Like the whole Yatwer cult and all of that, and I guess you finally see a non-man again for the first time. So there's some interesting parts that have started in these first 4 chapters. That's why I was thinking maybe the next 4 will be more exciting. And Katerina
It's
says the last
certainly
4
going.
definitely are.
Yeah, I think you'll probably agree with me, Daniel. Like the ending to this book is quite intense.
Hmm.
But I don't want to get your expectations too high, Steve. Like, you know, so that you're not disappointed when we finish this book.
No, it does feel like we're kind of building up to something, kind of like bringing people in. And uh, Kalomas was, is that, excuse me, that's how you pronounce his name. Um,
Who knows?
yeah,
Kel. Just call him
Cal.
Kel.
No, Kel and
Uh,
Sammy.
Cal and Sammy. Cal encouraging Sammy to. He was like doing a handstand on the balcony or on like the railing, and he of course he falls to his death, and that whole that whole section was pretty dark. But I mean, I guess what can you expect from an offspring of Kellis without the training and the attention that someone like that would need to hone their skills and to, I don't want to see Kellis abuses them, but to not to, I guess, maybe not even use them responsibly, but just a child with those kind of abilities is, I mean, what would they do? What would a child do with those kind of, that kind of outlook or that kind of mindset?
Yes, but then I don't think you see the other children going around and killing their siblings by putting olive oil on the railing. And I don't think well, we don't know, but it doesn't seem like any of the other siblings are hearing a voice that's telling them to basically isolate their mother and kill or remove everyone who might threaten their relationship.
Her only love remaining after.
Yeah, he's a interesting little kid. That neglected Dunyan. Rampant Dunyan intellect, but unlike Kellis, he seems to have a strong attachment, at least to one person.
Hmm.
Kellis doesn't seem to have attachments to humans like little Kel does, and Theliopa can't look people in the eyes, and she stutters. All of his children appear like they might be broke to varying degrees, in varying directions.
I wondered how much of this was because of the mother, him having a mother, and what would Kellis have done? But yeah, I'm sorry, Katerina, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it does seem like each of the children deals with their Dunyan inheritance in different ways. Like you talked about is her name Theliopia? I think they call it Theli, right? Calmomus, obviously, but also we learned a little bit about Enrelatus in the previous 4 chapters. And it does make sense that if they don't have the same training as Callus does, that they might go crazy or whatever it is that Calmomus is.
The other one, Cayutis, seems the most normal out of them all at this point, but he's like the oldest and had the most time to be developed, I guess.
He
Maybe,
seems like the one who's most in control of his abilities.
yeah, maybe the most like his uncle, the most Nathan-ish.
But then it makes you wonder about Muengas, who doesn't have any Dunyan blood, but has grown up with these children and has had Esmenet as his mother and Kellis as his father. But he also doesn't strike as completely normal, balanced individual to me.
His crazy brother said he was, be careful, because he's crazy.
He's quite mad. Yeah, I love that. He's like this little noir, like this little monster running around. I would imagine what he's like. And I thought it's interesting that they took him in as a son when he's neither of their son, but they still take him in as a son. Like seems like they raise him in the family.
In the last series, Esmenet talks about how that's like her last connection to Sarway, so it's equally her kid. So whether it's Kellis's decision or not is still in the air currently.
You know, if they want strong children with good genetic material, then Nayor's son's probably, like he is, like we know that Nayor was intelligent and like physically strong. That's probably something that you could use in a child of your own as well.
Something tells me many of those children won't make it. I don't know. I mean, what would a little callus do? I mean, how much damage can a little callus, without the training and control, what would they do to everyone else around them? And can they be stopped?
Who knows?
Who knows?
To what degree is Sammy dead currently? Do
I
either of you
wonder.
guys have a guess?
I wondered that because it didn't. I have a hard time believing that would kill him. Maybe not forever, but yeah, I wasn't sure about that. If that was really the end, because with Kellis on the Grid Ordeal, he may know something that Espenet doesn't know about how much damage they can take or kind of what they can endure physically. So maybe there's something that can be done for him or something that will just happen naturally for him. May not have seen the
I
last of him.
guess it depends. Is Sammy the body of Sammy, or is he the voice that Kalmomas is hearing?
That was my metaphysical question right there.
Oh.
To what degree is Sammy really dead? Because at the end of that chapter, he says, "Why did you take so long to kill me?"
Yeah, it
That's
is a
what the
bit
voice in his
confusing.
head said. Why did you take so long to finally kill me? So
I got a little bit confused because at one point, I think Kalmomas says that he is he's basically one soul born into two bodies. But then he is Kalmumas and he's hearing Sammy's voice. So it seems like there are two souls or two consciousnesses inside Kalmumas. So I wonder which it is, and I don't really have any idea.
Guess we'll find out.
I hope so. I'm very
Hope so.
curious.
the part where they like stared into each other's eyes forever until the guy finally broke him of it kind of makes it sound like they're conjoined twins, but not conjoined in the physical way, maybe. So here's another question. Do conjoined twins have two souls or one soul? In real life, in this world, does it matter where they're conjoined at? Does that separate the soul? If they're not conjoined at the brain and they have two separate thinking brains, is that two souls? I don't know the answers. Just strange questions.
You've thrown me into an existential spiral now. Am I one person? Was I maybe two people at one point? I don't know.
Wow.
And then we also met Setma Nanafari. What did you think of her? Nanafari?
That's the cult, woman in the cult, right?
Yeah, I think they call her like the priestess mother or the... What is it? She's got a couple names.
I'm not sure exactly, but she's the actual leader of the cult of Yadwer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the title that's like been banned. She's the Mother Supreme.
Yeah.
And the Shrai had like removed that title 16 years ago, and they did it in secret, it said.
Yeah, makes sense. It's the Mother Supreme.
So Yethway is that's I had to check the index, but the appendix, but that's was it like nature and fertility? Is that their kind of their cult, their belief system?
Yeah, the goddess of earth and fertility,
Earth and fertility, right?
I
favored
think
by slaves and menial workers, meaning that the most followers, since the upper class is fewer and the lower class is more.
I think it was here when, at least when I read the book for the first time, where I kind of had to re-evaluate how I think about religion or just gods in general in within this world. Because up until that point, and I think I've talked about it before, but up until then, I just assumed that the gods weren't real. I wasn't even sure if the god, the one solitary god, was real. It seemed, because I think in the Prince of Nothing, it just seems like religion is just a pretense that people use to get power. Like was very little evidence for me to believe that the gods existed and they actually played a role in the world. And I don't think they don't even mention the 100 gods very often anyway. So it wasn't until we met the Mother Supreme that I realized that the gods probably exist, and they have large following in this world, and they seem to have some influence over the events that take place.
I think this is where we see actual religious people, whereas the first three books, Mayfinet was Kellis's uncle, and he had overthrown or he was Kellis's brother's half brother,
Half
right? And he had overthrown the church for Dunyan ends, so it makes it appear like maybe religion just is a tool. But they do talk about the outside, and definitely, according to sorcerers, you can be damned, and it's a real thing. And seeing the mark is somehow part of it. But until Yatwer makes that girl just walk into the ether, there's no actual proof of gods, at least to me, up till this point. But when a girl disappears like a pitcher into the void, then it seemed like even all the cultists' followers, that's the first time they actually believed in the mother that they worshipped.
And this is the first mention in the series of the White Luck Warrior, right? I don't think and I know the title, I've heard the title before, but I think this is the first time they mentioned it in the books.
Yeah, even of white luck being the opposite of the religious counter to luck.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it. So what exactly is white luck supposed to mean? How is it different from normal, regular luck?
Normal, regular luck is not dependent on God's intervention. What white luck would be like in the Malazan, when they choose someone to manipulate to their ends or make them do something. But it doesn't occur all at once. It says it happens over time.
I see.
And
Maybe.
maybe, yeah, I was a little bit confused with the White Luck Warrior, if that was a person or if that was someone who was chosen. Because it on page 119, tell them the White Luck turns against their glorious aspect emperor. Tell them the mother sends her son, or that would see them dead. So I wasn't sure if it was a person who's was someone who's chosen, or if that's like a deity of some kind.
Well, whatever the Mother Supreme is, this would be, I think she called it her brother. So, the brother of Patsuma Nanafuri. In what sense? Who knows?
Yeah, the way I think about it is that white luck is a concept that exists, but then you can sort of you can use a person to make it real. Or, like maybe the gods can use someone as a vessel.
Or something. We don't know exactly what the gods are capable of yet here. They're only referred to in numerous vague ways. I feel like they said everyone is a piece of, like, the mirror of God, a broken fragment of God's eyes. But then also they say that God is blind to Kellis, so that might be why that he's trying to kill him right now, because he just doesn't understand. So God's abilities, or the 100 gods' abilities, is still an unknown variable.
There's also mentioned, I think it was Mathanet, or I think it was Mathanet, who said the 100 could be at war with God. So there could be...
Which is interesting because I think, according to the Enrithi faith, the 100 gods are like aspects of the single god, if I understood it correctly. So how could you, like, how could the god be at war with him or themselves?
What if one of those gods was the one god's jealousy, and another one was God's, like, opposite of jealousy? Wouldn't they be at war with each other? Basically, what I'm saying is we're all at war with each other in our own heads all day long. So what makes God different?
Yeah, well, we've met a couple of, well, we have not met any gods, but we've heard about a couple of gods, right? So we've heard about, I think, fortune, war, Gilgal. There's the what was the goddess that Enrau worshipped? It's like Oinkis or something. I think it was something like that. I think Momus is the god of seas or something like that. But Yatwer seems to be the most powerful that we've met so far. Largely, probably because she has such a huge following. Why are you laughing at me, Steve?
I'm laughing because the faces that Daniel's making as you're talking, because he's trying. I can tell that he's trying to choose his words carefully here. That he doesn't want to spoil it for us.
Well, Katerina is right that Yatwer was being worshipped all the way in Marrow. It's being worshipped where the Great Ordeal is taking place by the slaves. It is the biggest religion for sure.
Yeah.
And assuming that the Shrai is a fraud, which would make maybe his religion somewhat fraudulent, whereas Patsmananaferi is the opposite of a fraud. Maybe her religion could be less fraudulent. I've seen proof of Yatwer. I haven't seen proof of the solitary god at this point.
I guess.
I guess.
I mean, if she is one aspect of the solitary god, then you kind of have seen it through her, maybe. But then, I mean, the entire Holy War was, at least on the surface, an argument about whether there is a solitary god or not really. So, well, I guess, well, you can at least say that the Phantom are wrong. because they I think they say that there is only the solitary God, and that I don't know if they believe that the other gods, they don't exist, or if you just they should not be worshipped. But it seems to me like the Enrithi at least got parts of it right. Although I'm not actually convinced it matters at all.
I would concur.
Hmm.
And you only named like 8 of the 100 gods. There's some other interesting names in there that we've heard lots. One we've heard the most that you didn't mention, but I won't mention it.
Now I'm curious. Who did I forget?
The one
The one that
Kelmomus was playing with the beetle with.
Oh, the thief was. I think he called him the four-horned brother or something. I'm actually more confused now than I was before because I don't remember him ever being mentioned apart from that one single thing.
We'll see. We'll see what's going on.
Okay, I'll have to pay attention.
yeah, yeah. I'm wondering now too. Also, Saswatha becomes a Kamian during one of their sequences, and Kamian is referred to as a prophet of the past, which I thought was pretty fitting for him. What did you both think of the couple of chapters we had with the Kamian? The Kamian.
Well, it was interesting to see a Kamian among people again, if you can call the scalpers people. And I mean, what I liked about those chapters was how he was kind of realizing how much he missed the human contact. Like, it took him a while to get used to being around people anymore, but also like he kind of realizes towards the end that he doesn't like he's changed. Like, he does not care about people anymore, at least not as much as he did during the first Holy War. I think there's like one part where he's thinking about all these men that he has just hired to join him on the adventure to find the coffers, and then he's basically saying, he says something like he doesn't care how many of them will die as long as he gets to Ishwal. And I'm not sure that that's something that I don't think that's something that the Akamian we knew 20 years ago would have said.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's all true. And he's also, like, before he's even in Marrow, he's thinking about how he doesn't miss like what his slaves did for him. He missed his slaves, the people.
I still find it peculiar that he's this hermit, but he also has slaves. You know,
I think it was a family, right? Or like a certain circle of people that he had. Is that?
Yeah, it was a family. I think he started out with the man. I don't remember his name, and then I guess his slave got married, and then they had children. But like in my mind, like when he walks off at the end of Thousandfold Thought into the wilderness live this solitary life, and then you find out, oh, he actually has someone to cook for him and maybe clean his apartment for him.
Yeah, that's true. It was an interesting 20 years for Akemi, and I don't think anyone who read the first series was expecting his next 20 years to go like they went. And I kind of thought he had bought another slave for his first slave, and then they got married and started having kids, and now it's just like his kind of second family. He calls them his slaves still, but they're not really his slaves.
Maybe not. Maybe you're right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he did purchase the wife for him, but from what I remembered, I think they just met somewhere and got married. But I might be wrong. I don't actually remember the details of that relationship.
Regardless, she just gave him a house. He said he's never coming back.
That's true.
He didn't keep his slaves. He let them all go. Maybe he's feeding them to the wolves, like Mara was feeding her horse to the wolves.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, how are they going to fend themselves off against the scalpers and the strang and all the wild animals in the woods around them. No, but hopefully they'll be fine.
Doesn't seem like it will be. That section was kind of weird. Kamian seems like he's obsessed with revenge, and so like it's consumed him. He's not the same person he was. But the skin eaters, I kind of felt like it reminded him of the first Holy War, and that's why he doesn't seem to have a lot of sympathy for them. Like it, but it seemed like toward like when he spent more time with them, he was around the fire and he was eating with them. He kind of had that camaraderie that he didn't have for 20 years. That he was kind of, he realized that he missed the social aspects a little bit. But
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would call it camaraderie at this point. Like he's still, it seemed to me like he's still quite. I don't think he trusts them, is my point. And they certainly don't trust each other. Like they know not to rely on each other. But I think he does make an exception for Mimera when she shows up. For some reason, whatever that is, he seems to want to protect her from these men.
Teach me.
If he wanted to, he could just leave her tied to a tree somewhere, or kill her on the spot if he wanted to. If he did not want her to jeopardize his mission, but he doesn't do that.
I kind of think even at one point he was coming to like the bitten. I think that's what they were called, the other group that's with the skin eaters. And at the same time, he knows he like basically put all of these people to death for a lie, so can't be friends with them. Otherwise, he'll betray himself, kind of, if that makes sense. Because he's kind of a weaver, just like Nair.
There was one, excuse me. There was one little thing. I don't know if this is anything, but when one of the skin eaters was introducing himself, he said, "My name is Sarl," and Akamian interrupted him and kind of wanted to get down to business. And from there on, he's referred to as Sarl, Sarl, but I think there's more to that name because he interrupted him when he was speaking. So he didn't get to finish saying his name. He's never referred to as anyone else. Any of the people or ever refer to him. But whenever we hear whenever a Kamian thinks about it, it's always Sarl. There's more to that name. A little too close to Sarcellus for me.
I didn't catch that little detail, so I'm curious to see if you're right or not.
It may be nothing, but a little peculiar.
He definitely is a character.
Mhm.
What did you what was your impression of the captain, and what did you think of our? Well, it's not the first non-man that we've met, but probably the one we've spent the longest time with so far. So what did you think about these two people?
I think they probably know more than Kamian thinks they do, and I think they both think they're kind of getting over on each other, but they're they both have their own ideas.
Did you catch what they call the captain, or like what his nickname is?
I didn't.
He got it from Kellis, directly from Kellis.
I'm not sure we've learned that yet. Have we?
It said
Okay.
it was named that by the Aspect Emperor. So.
Oh yeah, it does say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iron Soul.
And they call him Iron Soul, which incidentally is also the man. Well, there's also a man in the prologue who was referred to as Iron Soul.
In the
who is
prologue
also
of the
a
darkness.
sculptor. Yeah.
Oh. That prologue, I'll tell you.
Yeah, maybe we should go back and reread the prologue again.
So we were talking. Was anything else about Akamian before we talk about what I was confused about? We talked a little bit about it.
I want to know, did you catch when Mimara showed back up any change in writing this time?
I didn't.
Because there's a part where instead of it saying like Sarl said in quotes, it says Sarl says, and it says what he says just in the paragraph. The perspective shift.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we mentioned it the last time, right? That all her POV scenes are written in the present tense.
Right.
I still find it bizarre, but apparently I'm the only one who's bothered by it.
I definitely notice it, but it doesn't bother me so much. Initially, it's jarring, but Steve doesn't even notice it, which must mean he does a really good job at writing. Normally, some switching perspectives like that would just ruin a book almost, I think.
Yeah.
There.
Well, I mean, I wonder if we should bring it up now, or maybe in the next episode. The fact that about the fact that the canyon got snowed in, and they'll have to take another route. I don't know.
Well, we'll just talk about that they have to take another route through something that the non-men remembers and no one else. But we've also learned that the non-men memory is something left to be debated. Like, he doesn't remember almost anywhere he's ever been, it seems like. Except for this one place, somehow.
and the slaughter of children.
Maybe think of the last section of Warrior Prophet. But
If you all of a sudden were just lived 1,500 years, what would your memory be like? Just out of curiosity. Would you be able to recollect 1,400 years ago easy? 100 years ago easy? Would you recollect your first wife that got murdered? Your 15th wife that you murdered?
it's got dark really quick.
Yeah, I like the trajectory of this. Yeah, I doubt so. I barely remember what I did this week, and I only seem to remember, specific things. Usually the bad stuff more than the good stuff.
This seems to be true with most people.
Mhm.
That trauma is the most memorable. It's also something that we can create a dark spot in our brain to, though, right? You can like block it out until it all comes back.
Yeah, so I guess I would probably remember murdering my wife, my 15th wife. Seems like a strong memory.
A memorable event. Well, unless you murdered every wife since then it's like 100 wives ago. I forget.
True.
Maybe that's the best way to remember, though.
You will remember you maybe murdered someone or one of your wife. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe the one you like the most. Maybe you remember that one, but the rest of them kind of fades into memory.
When I think of like Lord of the Rings, the elves, they don't seem to suffer with their memories. And if these are our version of elves, since they live so long and they're pale white and magic users, then they're a little bit different than your standard fantasy elf.
But either way, I find it very fascinating, and I'm curious to learn more about the non-men, and especially about what did he call himself? I don't remember. The cleric.
Corey, I think he might have said his name was, and it came in and said he didn't remember it.
Yeah, maybe something like incorporeal or incarial.
Yeah,
I got it mixed up with the Inquiry.
Yeah, me too.
Incarial might be right. But how many names did Mathnet have when he died? He had at least two that we know, or I mean, Moingus had at least two names that we know of, right? How old is someone who's 1,500 years? Like, how many names might they have?
Yeah, probably more than one.
Lord Cassandra seems like he might have more names than that in Iron Soul, but who knows yet? He seems like a menacing figure.
I'm scared of him. Like just like knowing that he's present, and I get goosebumps. He's he just gives this vibe of like incredibly cruel, someone who's incredibly cruel and completely lacking compassion and would kill you in a wink of eye. Just wouldn't care.
Somewhere it said for a man to like have a non-men magi under him is rare, and it means that somehow he's special. It takes more than a man to control a non-men magi. And Cassodr seems to have cleric like under him.
Yeah. Well, I guess the interesting part for me is that he allows Mymara to join the Slav. which is maybe not something I would expect from him.
After we just heard
Given how
about the rules of the slog, where if your own brother dies, the only rule is steal his shoes if they fit. Don't bury him. Just keep moving. It seems like the slog's rules are somewhat Dunyan-ish. Remorseless. There's not a lot of empathy there, but for some reason, Casader did kill one of his own men who tried to take advantage of Namara. So her being there, I think, is against the rules of the slog. I don't think, but it did say what she has to bear the weight of a man, or
I think she has to bear the weight like a man, or she'll wear the weight
of the men. Yeah, it was bad. It's not going to be good for her.
Yeah, but you do have to you have to admire her determination. Because I think most people probably have just given up a long time ago, but she keeps coming back and she keeps following a commune.
She definitely doesn't want to go home.
Well, I mean, what is home for her?
Yeah.
It's where her mom tries to make up for all of the horrible things that have happened to her that she doesn't know about. Which is basically them dressing her up just like her mother and taking advantage of her.
Yeah. I guess you could say she's more running away from things than running towards something. And this idea or illusion or fantasy that a commune is going to teach her the gnosis and she's going to become a witch, and that somehow will give her control over her life. It's that's what's been fueling her. But I mean, as a commune said it, like he's not planning on coming back from Ishwal. Like it's one-way journey for him.
I mean, would you want to go live with them, with family Kellis, and I bet it's really cozy holidays and with all those kids running around, and where else does she have to go?
Yeah.
If I lived in this world and I walked one direction for a year, I probably would never walk back. A year of walking sounds like more than I want to do. And then to do it twice, just to go back to the same place you were, seems crazy. They called it what? A slog is like 1/10 of this. This is 10 times a normal slog to the Scalpoi.
Did anyone else pick up some Lord of the Rings vibes from that whole? We have to take a different route through the Black Hall.
Yeah, okay, so you did pick up on it. I wasn't sure if we were gonna bring it up, but yeah, totally.
Yeah. It could get more or less Lord of the Rings vibe in the next couple hundred pages. I definitely feel like this book is written different, less like revelation and more like a happening story. The first series was like scripture, like revelation. It was happening, but the way it was written was like it had already happened almost. Where in this book, there's lots more detail of the travel and of the surroundings and less scriptural word, I guess. Less dense words.
That's a really good way to put it. 'Cause I did try to think about it as well. And for me, the way I thought about the difference between the first series and this one was that I feel like Prince of Nothing focuses maybe a little bit more on the characters and like on the psychology of the characters, whereas the Aspect Emperor feels like it's more about the story and about like where they're going and how they're going to get there and what's going to happen once they get there. Whereas the Prince of Nothing, the destination maybe didn't feel as important. But what you said about like it being revelation it being more about like revelations in the first trilogy and about sort of things that might have already happened, and this being more about things happening that actually that explains a lot better than what I thought of. So I really like that comparison.
Yeah, this is all new, so it's written like it's happening more.
So I'm not sure if I missed something, which happens often, but the storks I was a little bit confused about. Because they had some like some cattle or some sheep that were following for food, and they would have to go out and hunt game because they didn't have enough of it. But why not just kill some of those storks and have that as a food source? That's what I was confused. But I probably missed something, and it's frustrating me. But
The cattle are north of them right now. They just sent the cattle into wild green yonder, and they're not having to spread out for food yet. But it talked about at some point they're going to run out of all these cattle, and their food lines are going to run out, and they're going to have to spread out looking for food, and that might be what dooms the Holy War. So the less looking for food, the better off they might be.
Also, the storks are sacred for the Sacarpi, and Kellis wants to get the city of Sacarpus on his side. So by eating all their sacred birds, you would probably piss them off. So you might not want to do that. But I mean, have you ever seen a stork? I don't think there's much meat on a stork anyway.
it's something.
I shot a squirrel when I was a kid, and my dad made me eat it. So
What?
there's meat on all animals, big and small.
Well, I mean, it's if you're hungry, yeah, sure, okay. Well, I really like the stork, so I would be very sad if they decided. But it was one of the funniest. I think that was the one moment where I laughed during these chapters. I think where they mentioned there was I think it was a Canine person who like he killed like a couple of the storks and then used the feather to make pillows. And I could so relate to him because imagine you come from all the way from Kian to like Sacarpus and it's like really cold and you want to like warm yourself up and like like they make like pillows and blankets like stuff with feathers and they're like super warm. And I was like, I totally get where you're coming from. It made me laugh.
And then death came swirling down for that guy.
Yeah, I think they flayed him alive.
Yeah, publicly. Yeah.
For a pillow. Yeah.
Less storks died after that, though.
It sends a message.
I thought it was interesting, like, at the same time they were taking over the city in the last chapters, they were out, like, building the city outwards. Like, at the same time the war was happening, there's people on the outskirts of the city building houses and building a secondary city because they have that many people. I think they even built a road all the way down to the nearest settlement, like in a short amount of time.
It did seem like there was, as much as it was like an external conquest, there was also some form of like infiltration that happened even before the Great Ordeal reached the city. Like if they already started like, moving people to Sacarpus and having them like build houses.
And all the Scalpoi are doing have been trying to kill as much rank as they can and keep them moving northwards, keep expanding the civilized settlements into the savage lands.
It's a lot of logistics. For how many did they say they have? Like 280,000 people
Yeah,
marching
280.
on Gol I can't say it. Golgoroth.
It's a tough one.
I also thought it was interesting they talked about the city and how it had withstood the no god. Like, there's a part where he's looking at the wall that got torn down, and he's like, that has been there since the no god. Not even the no god could get through it, but Kellis just walked over it and took over the whole city. So maybe he's more than a no god, and he's thinking about how he brought all these different groups of people together and just like squished them all into each other. It's kind of like America. It's the closest thing this book could have to America. People of all different races, all just together for one purpose.
So what is the American equivalent of Kellis?
Oof. I don't know.
We haven't hit that yet. I'll tell you when America gets destroyed who it was, though, if I'm still alive.
Okay. Sounds good. Not that I'm wishing for you to get destroyed, of course.
I would say Nikola Tesla, but he was mostly just weird, not so much socially powerful.
Well, he also created light.
It's true. But he was in love, though. He loved a bird. I don't know if Kellis is capable of love.
Well, he saved the stork, so that's something.
So the Great Ordeal and and I know we didn't. I didn't want to read another whole book about gathering the Great Ordeal again because we already did that with the Holy War, but it seems kind of like it doesn't have the same impact as the Holy War did for me anyway. It doesn't seem as like big and epic and like meaningful just because we're in the middle of it now, or we're about to head into the frontiers, beyond the frontiers of man. But something's about to happen, hopefully.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's like I was saying, there's just less revelation in this. There's no real political intrigue at this point of like people figuring things out and like making last minute plans and trying to deceive each other, and then they all lose to some unforeseen thing they didn't know about. All of those doubts seem to have been already eaten these past 20 years in the unification wars that we don't hear about. And now we're just getting the march of the Holy War without the inner turmoil at this point. Proyas isn't fighting against Kellis. Saban isn't fighting against Kellis.
King Saban.
That's Exalt General.
Yeah.
You just have to rub it in. But I would agree with you that the Great Ordeals is much better organized than the Holy War ever was, and Kellis has everything and everyone under control. So it does make sense that we don't get any of the politicking and the backstabbing and people trying to get control over the host, over the army. What that makes, I do agree with you, Steve. It makes it more boring as well because of that.
I think the boringness might be going away soon. But
Yeah, I
maybe
think
not.
once they split into the different foraging parties, things might get more interesting. Callus probably can be in several places at once. Although, considering how skilled he is with magic, he might. Who knows?
This book also has kind of like the original darkness that comes before. We're all spread out. Whereas the end of that series, everyone comes together and everyone's on the Holy War or close to it. This book has people, like, has Essenet all the way in the capital city, has Acamian out in some outskirts town far away from everything, and the Great Ordeal. So there's big jumps in geography and less connection, I guess. We didn't talk about Patsanana Fairy kills the witch, the Swale witch spy, I guess. So somehow she knew it was a spy. Somehow they were able to get the spy in there and make it seem like it was someone else.
Yeah, it's kind of like a skin spy, but a magical one.
Which had only been done once, right? When they mandate caught the guy. When the mandate caught the skin spy, he was a mandate schoolman, so he knew magic and he could use it. But they said he was like a freak. They could never replicate him.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just assume that this woman, was sent there by the Empire, by Esmaneth, just to spy on the Yatwer cult. I don't think they were sent by the consult, or am I wrong?
No, judging by the talk that Essenet was having with the Shry when the little kids were playing at the peak of the whatever, they were talking about how they had their informant get caught and what they should do about it. So it appears like it was one of theirs.
Yeah. There's also a connection between Yatwer and Sorwheel. Sorwheel gets his new slave gifted to him by Cayutas. Yeah. And it seems that, well, the slave has some sort of connection to Yatwer, or he at least worships Yatwer. And then he touches Sorwheel, and he says something about the goddess, and Sorwheel gets burned, and it's all very strange and mysterious.
Yeah, somehow his tear burns him. I think he opens his palm and kisses his palm and then drops a tear into it. And then later he feels the burn in his palm.
And he says something to him in Shake, I think, at the very end.
War. This is war.
Which is surprising because I think Yatwer is like the opposite of war. Like, she's the goddess of giving. whereas war, I guess, would be all about like taking.
But we did just find out that Patsanana Fairy is going to war. She basically like declared war against the Aspect Emperor.
Yeah, but she said her brother or her brother, I think, would take care of that. So it's not necessarily like she's going to war herself.
Yeah, the god is going to war against Kellis. Or maybe Esme. Someone. The god is going to war against what they consider to be too powerful. Well, I guess we'll see. We haven't got anything except a tear that burned and some lady that walked into the ether and disappeared.
Yeah. But just on a more less spiritual note, I really like how the dilemma that Sorwheel is facing, how that's portrayed, like how he's you kind of get the sense that like he's like a good kid and he wants to be a good king to his people, but then he just I don't know if he lacks the courage, because like honestly I don't know like how I don't think I would act any differently than he does in this situation. But he doesn't have the courage and he doesn't have the means to resist to the Aspect Emperor, and it's kind of killing him inside to that know that he kind of has to bear this shame in front of all his people and have this like strange relationship with the Aspect Emperor, where like on one hand he hates him because he's the one who conquered his people, but then also seems to almost like admire them, or admire the Kellis, and admire his family and his sons, or at least like he's scared of it's I don't know, it's like it's really I really like the portrayal of that, and it does feel very nuanced, and it does feel like it feels like a reaction that like a normal person would have in the position where he is in.
A kid. He's one of the kid perspectives we get. And yeah, I think his religion is basically says that Shrank are the worst and that they need to be destroyed and that the no god is coming. And so Kellis is doing all the things that like their gods would want him to do. So part of him thinks that maybe like he is the good guy, but then he also remembers the times when he's thinking about believing Kellis the most. He remembers what his dad said, that he's a Sifring, came to ruin the world, and he's the only person that can stop him somehow.
And he has no idea how. Yeah, I think the hardest part for me to read was when I think he's being led to the encampment, and he crosses paths with the boy he saw on the walls the night that Sakarpus was conquered, and he's imagining that, you know, he's imagining himself helping the kid, and then he doesn't do anything because that's probably the more reasonable thing to do. And it gives you a little bit of sense. I mean, they like it. Callis so far from what we've seen has treated Sir Wheel very, very nicely. Like he's not been hurt. He's been maybe sort of promoted, like giving this honor of joining the Kidruhil. So like you have like I had this like idea that they're just treating everyone in Socarpus really nicely, and then you'll see this kid that obviously has been tortured, and who knows what else what else they did to him. So it puts things in a perspective.
Or sort of. I think they said he joined the Scion of Princes too, which is like the group of all the conquered princes Kellis has got along the way through the Unification Wars. So every time he conquers a city, he just takes the eldest son and makes him go with his two sons, and they all become a big tribe together. So now Cayutis is Sorgo's general, it says, and all of the people serving under him are all just old princes that have been taken in.
Yeah,
Unification.
it seems like maybe not the safest thing to do. Put all your enemies into one like one body of soldiers, and like I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll probably get to know some of them in the next couple of chapters.
We'll see.
We have got a lot of new characters in these first 200 pages. We got the Scan Eaters, the Bitten, the Yatwer religion, all of Kellis's offspring, whatever they are.
Whatever they are.
Yeah, I do want to know. But it's still, I don't think it doesn't feel as overwhelming as the darkness that comes before. Maybe because we already know parts of the world. But it feels manageable to me, at least.
Feels a little bit more focused, a little bit more not as open.
Was it dark at all to you, these chapters, Steve?
Well, the oil on the hand on the balcony was pretty dark. Other than that, not too bad. I mean, by this series standards, anyway, wasn't too bad.
I remember the part. I think Akamian's dreaming of when Saglash gets sacked, and it's talking about how like parents were just throwing their kids off the walls or slitting their throats.
Yeah.
Right before they go to war, they just have to kill all their kids so they're not at the mercy of the shrink, because whatever they do would be worse.
Yeah.
What I remember from that sequence is the dragon.
Raccoon.
Yeah, is he? I think is he like one of the? Yeah, I think he gets mentioned by a name, but I forgot the name. But this is like huge dragon, sort of in front of, just sort of in the air, suspended midair, in front of Siswath, I think. Thought it was pretty cool.
And then we got rumors of a living dragon. He said black halls. And that's why everyone dies, but Sarl doesn't seem to think so.
Yeah, and the cleric seems to think that he remembers the way, because I don't know if I would be as brave as.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost Katerina. There was two Katerinas here for a second.
Well, I guess that was my
One soul, two bodies.
Yeah.
or two bodies, one soul, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's something wrong with my Wi-Fi. That's what happened.
You were
Anything else?
talking about the black halls and
The dragon? That-
cleric's memory going into them. You wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, yeah, I probably wouldn't trust that he remembers the way through some kind of a complex after having not been there for like 2,000 years or something.
That and killing wives just gets all mixed in, and you forget what's happened.
You know, between killing wives and remembering directions, I have a guess about which one is more memorable.
We'll find out.
Trauma. We'll see how traumatic his being a prisoner of his cousins was. Maybe if it's traumatic enough, he'll remember.
Yeah, well, we'll have to hope. It doesn't seem like they have any other option. Anyway, and Kamian does not have time to waste. Although I will say one thing. I'm not like they make this big deal out of uh avoiding crossing the three seas. I mean, like the three seas big enough. I'm sure like no one would notice a company of like couple of how many are they? Like 30 scalpers and one old guy. I'm sure they could just get around unnoticed. I don't know if there's actually any need to go around the mountains and then, well, that's just like one of my little complaint.
I think he's probably afraid of Callus somehow finding out that he's there or he's in the area.
Yeah, but I mean, Kellett's not in the three C's. Like he's already left with the ordeal, and the ordeal will be marching in front of them. But
As far as geographically, he's closer to Kellis than he's been in a long time, though. Kellis is in the north. He's in the north. Before there was thousands of miles between them. And now he has to look at Mimara and think about Essenet all the time. Probably some of those skin spies think of Essenet when they see Mimara. Who knows, but they do say that their resemblance is uncanny, and she thinks if she gets caught by them, she would end up in her same old position, being an image of her mother in a brothel.
yeah, the scalper's intentions were pretty clear. Which, like, for me, maybe that's the like darkest part of this book so far. Like learning about Mimara's history and how predatory the world that she moves around is. That's sometimes that I think that can be a bit difficult to read about.
Yeah.
The dead children are fine.
No big deal.
No, I don't care. No.
The Kamian seems to think Mimara is like too better to be Essenet. She's broken.
She seems more aggressive, or what, like I'm trying to find the right words to describe her. Like I guess Esmenet, at least when we meet her in the very first book, she seems sort of at peace with what she is. Like she just accepts whatever hand the world has dealt to her. Whereas Mimara always seems to be
still searching.
Yeah, she's not giving up. Given up. She's always looking for something more than the nothing she has currently.
She thinks that learning magic is going to fill all the voids in her.
Well, I mean, we've already met other characters who think that doing one thing is going to solve all their lifelong problems.
Usually doesn't work
It's
out too
true.
well.
Almost every character in this book seems to have
Yeah.
thought they could solve some problem somehow, fill some void. And so they shove somebody else's eyeballs into their own, and it just doesn't work out.
That
Yeah.
was great. Yeah, that was a great scene.
Maybe not the word I would use, but no, I know what you mean.
Memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I would be very happy to erase it from my memory.
Anything else either of you can think of from these 4 chapters?
We did have Essenet and Nathanet kind of debating whether Yatwer was real. And Nathanet seemed to say that he wasn't willing to write off the idea all the way. Then they got interrupted. Breaking bones.
Olive oil and children. Yeah.
I mean, you have to feel bad for Esmenet. Like she lost the only child who ever probably cared about her or like genuinely loved her and was not like a psychopathic maniac at the same time.
There was a part when she hugged Kel, and for some reason she like got reminded of food or something, and it was right after because of the olive oil. I assumed.
Oh,
Otherwise,
I
they
missed
wouldn't have
that.
used like a food smelling description. She didn't connect it, but she said something about it smelling like a cookie pot or something.
Oh, I missed that completely. I'll have to go back and reread it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was strange that they were referring to food, but I didn't catch on about the olive oil. I missed that.
Now I'm trying to think, but I think we went through everything. I think for me the most interesting part of it is probably what we learn about the Yatwer and the cult and kind of how it seems to be like the sort of the philosophy of that particular faith seems to be so much in contrast of the philosophy of the people we met in the first series. You know, like the entire Holy War was all about like people taking or trying to, you know, get as much power or wealth, whatever, control. Whereas the Outwear seems to be all about like giving freely and not expecting anything in return, and sort of sheltering all those who are helpless and have nothing, have no agency. So I just find it to be like an interesting contrast to how I usually think about the world of Erwa and sort of like the overwhelming like philosophy that most people seem to follow in that world.
Yeah, I've heard other people talk about like them not really showing the religious aspect, like actual religious devotion, but with the Yatwers, it seems to be actual religious devotion coming from like the poorest people. Mm-hmm. There's the scene where Patsima, she is sitting there begging, and she's got her little like bucket or whatever it is. She decides she's gonna leave, and she pulls an onion out of the bucket, turns the bucket over, drops all the money on the ground, and then just walks off. Because she talks about how other priestesses would have took the money, but she doesn't need those things. She's an actual priestess of Yatwer. The other ones are all frauds. Everyone is a fraud except her.
Yeah. And I think you could also say that people have, like, people believe, at least in the Aspect Emperor series, they believe in Kellis. Like, there is genuine faith and devotion that people feel for him, for the Aspect Emperor, or the prophet that that he that he seems to be to them.
Because we
So
got
it's
that
like-
scene where he was like flying above them when they all started chanting the same words, and it's all the different faiths like, chanting to Kellis as he floats over them.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, of course, like, it's deception on his part, but then I think that is like the purest belief that we get, purest faith that we get in this series.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we missed. The Yatwer believe in the outside the same as the Enrique do, the same as all the other religions do. They refer to the outside when they're talking about when they uncovered that place they were, where all the urns are. It's where all their sisters are awaiting to return to the outside together.
Yes, I still don't really understand what the outside is.
Is it another arc?
Well, in the first series, it talks about how the Ark came to this Earth because those people were fleeing the outside. What it
That
is,
makes it
who knows?
even more confusing. No, but yeah, I think the arc exists in this world, meaning not the outside. So, but I mean, who knows? We'll see.
We'll see.
It will all become more clear, probably. Not ever crystal clear, but definitely more clear.
Okay. Yeah, there was another funny moment where Sorwheel and his slave, they were like sleeping in their tent, and then someone, like some like soldier, came and was like just took a dump right behind their tent. I thought that was pretty funny.
They did too. They both thought it was hilarious, I guess.
Yeah, the farting noises. Yeah.
But I mean, don't they have latrines? It seems strange that someone would just randomly decide to do I'm trying to think of some like nice synonyms.
Defecate.
Thank you. That sounds very educated.
No, just we've during this whole process we've been trying to find ways to describe certain things like coupling, and there's a few other ones, so good to get creative once in a while.
I've been walking in Vegas and seen it on the sidewalk. So there's people in this world that don't wait for latrines. They just go when they need to go.
Yeah. Not even on a march. They just do it. Yeah.
I have one really dark memory from visiting Hollywood when I was a kid. And we were like on a tour bus. And I looked out, and the Hollywood sign was in the background, and there was a homeless guy that had his pants all the way down. And he would go all the way up, and he would jump into the air, and then he would like squat all the way down, and then he would go up and jump in the air and squat all the way down. It's like the weirdest thing I ever seen, but there's just shit in the sidewalk right under them with the Hollywood sign in the background. It was the last time I went to Hollywood.
Oh my god. I mean that it's if I remember correctly, it's a pretty long climb to get to the sign.
Yeah, we were like right in the middle of a crappy city. That city is not good. They showed like Madonna's house, and it was like a $2 million house. It looked like the smallest, most ghetto house in my town. Like 0.10 acres, $2 million.
It's all about location. Yeah.
Yeah, there's homeless people in the streets all over, but it's still all about location because they did have like a Versace store like a block away, so
Priorities.
it's a confusing place.
It
But
is.
even in this world, people will do bad things in the middle of the street while other people walk right by. So, in the middle of a great ordeal march, who knows? I guess they're lucky that you didn't come in their tent and do it.
All bets are off.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I guess I would just expect more discipline from, the soldiers of the Great Ordeal.
Mhm.
But I guess there will still be exceptions and anomalies. I mean, there's only that many people that you can control.
Yeah.
Even if you proclaim yourself to be a son of God and prophet and the sorcerer supreme of the whatever school. Well, I don't even know if Gauss is a school. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
Of all the schools, of all the people, of all the religions, he's just the leader.
Yeah, he's the Ubermensch.
Cool. Well, next week will be chapters. What did we finish off on? 8? So 9 through 14?
Maybe.
9 through 13. Through 13, right?
Yeah, 313.
Yeah, through 13.
Well, it should be around 100 pages. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. Yeah. Every week I think, I don't know, there's a whole lot to talk about, and then we just
I was
We talk-
expecting to be done 40 minutes in, and here we are, double that.
here we are talking about defecating near the Hollywood sign in Hollywood. So
My childhood traumas. Yeah, that's right.
So Daniel, if someone wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place to find you?
You can just comment in this video or come find me on page chewing somewhere, which is seem to have been getting busier and busier as the days go on. So congratulations, Steve.
Yeah.
I can't even keep up with it anymore. It moves so fast.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. And Katerina, where is the best place for people to find you and criticize your Instagram handle?
well, you can find me on Instagram at The Errand, which might be changing soon, depending on how I feel about the seventh Malazan book once I finally get to it. And I'm also on the page chewing forum, so you can find me there and have a chat with me about these books or any other books.
Cool. Another fun few chapters. Fun conversation as always. So we'll see everyone next week.